we all know who Saruman Boruto are. Mitsuki is a clone of Orochimaru that was created to master Snake State, and their leader is Konohamaru. No, Konohamaru should be in charge of Mitsuki. So, it works. There opens the Team 7 capturing a couple of train robbers, and hearing from the train robbers that all but one of them have been killed in an abandoned mine. So they go to check out this mine and realize there is a white Zetsu, a massive white Zetsu, which the gang and Konohamaru are able to defeat. At this point, they realize there's a blossom from a god tree in there that was once the Kaiser chakra and therefore created white Zetsu. But it no longer has chakra. Konohamaru realizes he has to report on this and sends the Genin back to report to Konoha. They didn't actually defeat the white Zetsu, it just retreat. And therefore, the Genin were like, we're not leaving you here, we're going to help you back. And eventually, they defeat this white Zetsu. But as they head deeper into the cave, they see a lot of dead Zetsu being incinerated by black flames. At this point, the Konohamaru reveals to all of them that Sasuke is on a mission to destroy all humans and his clan. Speaking of Sasuke, the next thing we see is him and Kazuya's ice dimension, as he's looking for one secret secret. And Sasuke is being watched in this dimension by Kinshiki and Momoshiki. And while Momoshiki and Kinshiki watch over Sasuke, Orochiki,
Yerp.
who lives in a weird place in
Yerp, yerp.
full of crocodiles, goes to the moon to confront Oneiri, who we met in the last. He says that the main branch family of the Otsutsuki has been watching over Oneiri for a millennium, and therefore they stop the humiliating loss that he was given at the hands of Naruto. Therefore, in order to make up for the humiliating loss, Orochiki imprisons Oneiri for 1,000 years. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, it's Himawari's birthday. Himawari is Boruto's little sister. Naruto pulls up to Himawari's birthday, but it's not Naruto, it's a shadow clone. And Naruto is so exhausted.
We ain't gonna start it yet. I'm just gonna show off what we got.
He is also not a great father. And this
Sleeping
makes
mute.
Boruto very upset because he believes that Naruto should be there for Himawari and him. Though admitting that he wants Naruto in his life is something that Boruto struggles with currently. So Boruto storms upstairs and finds Naruto's old, battered orange and blue jacket and tosses it out the window. It's at this point that somebody rings the doorbell. Boruto runs down to the door and tries to punch whoever it is, assuming that it's Naruto. But it's not Naruto. It's Sasuke.
This time I gotta
Sasuke
get graded.
asks if Naruto's
I'm getting these
around.
2 card
To
graded.
tell Sasuke that he's in his office.
Who
Therefore,
remember
Sasuke and
Inuyasha?
Boruto head to his office. However, on the way to the office, Sasuke finds Naruto's old
Still
jacket.
sealed.
After Sasuke has given the status report about Momoshiki and Kinshiki, Boruto tries to bust down the door to yell at Naruto. But Sasuke stops him, which impresses Boruto, and Boruto asks to become his student. To which Sasuke says when he learns the Rasengan, he will teach him. So Boruto goes to the Sarutobi clan compound and finds Konohamaru and asks him to teach him the Rasengan, because Konohamaru obviously knows it. And Boruto, being a genius, as he comes from two of the most powerful ninjas in the entire village, figures it out relatively quickly. And when Boruto goes to show it to Sasuke, Sasuke says something that I've heard more times than I would like. It's kind of small, isn't
It's
it?
a
Which, understandably,
2
makes
deck
Boruto a little upset, so he
trading
throws
box
the Rasengan. However, it's revealed to us a little bit later that Boruto's Rasengan, when
from
thrown, didn't dissipate. It just turned
I
in
think
this,
from
and
2000,
that's
early
important.
2000,
Boruto accidentally did something that neither Kakashi
from
nor Minato
2005
could
maybe.
pull off.
Yeah,
Boruto's chakra
2005.
nature alignment is lightning, like Sasuke's. And when he created his Rasengan, he accidentally incorporated lightning into his Rasengan, which meant that when his Rasengan
2005
Inuyasha.
Inuyasha.
Invisible. This is something that both Minato and Kakashi attempted, and the reason that Kakashi created Chidori is because he couldn't effectively add lightning chakra
Gengar.
to his Rasengan in the first place. But
Sleeping
Boruto
Mew.
doesn't know this, so Boruto goes to a scientist who's creating Shinobi Ware. Boruto happens about 15 years after the conclusion of the Fourth Great Shinobi World
Also
War.
got One
And in
Piece
those
also.
15 years, the Shinobi World modernizes like an insane amount. They have burger stores, a train, and scientific Shinobi Ware. And one of the more prominent of the scientists is Katasuki, who's close to Boruto. So Boruto's complaining to him about how his Rasengan is weak, and therefore the scientist is just like, okay, well then use this ninja wear contraption that allows you to use any ninjutsu with one sign. Literally all you have to do is move your hand once, like Spider-Man, and it shoots out a mini roll that creates whatever ninjutsu you want. It's kind of broken. And to this point that everyone feels as though they're ready for the Chunin exams, which are right around the corner. And it's revealed, like just with the original Chunin exams, there's gonna be ninjas coming from Suna, also known as the Hidden Sand Village. Specifically, Gaara's adopted son, Shinki. Then we come back to the Otsutsukis, who are currently in Kaguya's lava dimension looking for information about where she could have gone. It's at this point that Orochiki pulls up and tells them that she went to Earth, and that on Earth they have a bunch of tailed beasts and 2 Jinchuriki. It's at this point that the Otsutsuki trio pull up on Killer Bee and kill him. That is to say that they compress him down into chakra pills. This happens after Killer Bee
They might not even buy it.
fires a tailed beast bomb at Orochiki, which
And then I already got
Rinnegan
it.
in his hand.
I already took a picture of him, so
tailed beast bomb with his other Rinnegan
it's already,
and shoots it
it's all
back, which
good.
supposedly defeats
It's all good. It's all good with the
What
hood.
happens in actuality is that Killer Bee uses an ink clone just like he did against Sasuke. However, in order to do that, he does have to leave a part of BP behind, and therefore
It's all good in the
part of
hood.
Yuki into chakra pills. This fight and the fact that Killer Bee hasn't shown up in
It's all good.
Boruto since this fight leads a lot of people to believe that he's dead, but he actually shows
Computer or
up in the
something?
post-credit scene of the movie. We then get served to the beginning of the Chunin exam, which, like all other Chunin exams, has a bunch of different phases. There's a written exam, there's a practical exam, and then at the end, they all have to fight each other. Some kids win, some kids lose. Boruto and all the important characters move on. And just like that, Boruto's through the first round of the Chunin exams. We then get the second round of the Chunin exam, which isn't the Forest of Death this time around, but is instead Capture the Flag. Shinki, Gar's adopted son, basically single-handedly defeats the new Team 5. Boruto cheats in the exam using his Shinobi Gauntlet in order to use
Go check out the store. We also got prices at the store.
Team 7 passing the second round. However, the entire second round is being televised. 1010, who's keeping an eye over the
Also got
proceedings,
cards in the
realized that she
store.
didn't see Boruto weave any hand signs to use the jutsus he used to win in the second round. However, she comes to the conclusion that he just
I'm finna
weaved
switch
hand
it
signs
up.
so fast that she couldn't keep up.
I'm finna switch it up. Well, I'm gonna wait till the time go out. I'm gonna switch it up.
But the information that Boruto has passed the second round of the Chunin exams gets Naruto and he gets hyped about it. And Naruto goes so far as to applaud Boruto for passing the second round, which Boruto really enjoys because he never really gets positive feedback from Naruto. We then get to the third round of the Chunin exams, which, believe it or not, is a one-on-one. There's a bunch of battles. Sarada and Mitsuki win. Boruto cheats to beat a kid named Yoroi, who's completely irrelevant. And then in his second round comes up against Shikadai, who is Shikamaru's son, and is incredibly talented and a genius just like his father. And even though Shikadai technically should have won because he catches Boruto with his shadow technique, Boruto uses the Kote, or the Shinobi Gauntlet, to break himself out of it, cheating in their battle when he said he wouldn't. And it's at this point that he's able to overwhelm Shikadai and force him to surrender. Then a bunch more matches happen. Mitsuki finds himself up against Shinki. However, Mitsuki isn't supposed to use the entirety of his strength because Orochimaru doesn't want people finding out what he's been doing in the dark. And so Mitsuki kind of throws his battle against Shinki. However, Shinki is incredibly powerful because he has magnetic sand ability, but it's technically the iron sand ability of the third Kazekage. So Mitsuki losing wasn't that suspicious. The final battle of the Chunin exams is a three-way battle between Sarada, Boruto, and Shinki. And while Boruto and Sarada decide to work together to defeat Shinki so they can battle it out after, Shinki defeats Sarada. Boruto, put in the corner, tries to use his lightning release, Boruto's stream, to defeat Shinki's iron sands, but it doesn't work. So Boruto uses the ability of Kakashi, Purple Lightning, to defeat Shinki's iron sand, making him the winner of the Chunin exam. However, Naruto had come to watch this final match because his son was in the final match. But what Naruto realized at the end of his match is that Boruto cheated. So Naruto pulls up on Boruto, grabs him by the wrist, and shows everybody that he's been cheating, basically embarrassing his son into being a better person. Naruto goes so far as to remove Boruto's forehead protector, basically making him not a genin at all. This leads Boruto to screaming at Naruto, saying that if he really wanted him to be the greatest ninja of all time, he would have found time to be with him. And it's at this point that Katsuki arrives and tells everybody that Boruto was his tester for the new Shinobi Gauntlet. It's at this point that Boruto realizes he was being used. And before anybody can unpack the emotional trauma of their upbringing, Momoshiki and Kinshiki and Toroshiki all pull up on the Chunin exams. Gaara and Chodro, the current Mizukage, try to battle against Oroshiki, but struggle pretty mightily. Naruto tries to use his Shinobi Gauntlet to launch attacks at Momoshiki, but all of them are absorbed and fighting back. And it's at this point that Naruto and Sasuke pull up on the battle and begin battling against Momoshiki and Kinshiki. However, since both of their children are there, they have to focus on protecting them. And when Momoshiki pulls out a tailed beast bomb that would have destroyed the entire Chunin exam area, including their children, Naruto has to use 100% of his power to deflect the bomb. Naruto wanted to use a tailed beast bomb to counteract Momoshiki's tailed beast bomb, but he realized if he did that, everyone around him would probably die. So he kind of just takes a tailed beast bomb to the face, which knocks Naruto out pretty clean, and Momoshiki kidnaps him. Naruto then wakes up in a hospital a couple days later, surrounded by all of his teammates who also got injured in the debacle. Boruto looks down to see that he's still wearing his Shinobi Gauntlet, at which point he tears it off and throws it. It's at this point that Sasuke tells Boruto that he's been in a similar situation to him, where he's been scorned by everybody he knew. However, Sasuke can still sense Naruto's chakra and is going to save him with Boruto's help. So Sasuke gives Boruto his old headband and tells him the story behind the mark in it, which inspires Boruto to be the better version of himself that works hard for the power that he needs. Boruto also puts on Naruto's old jacket. Smash cuts Momoshiki and Kinshiki in some wasteland dimension where there's a god tree. Momoshiki tells Naruto that this god tree was created using the chakra of a man who harbored a tailed beast, which Naruto realizes is Killer Bee. They never really explain that. Like, how can you build a god tree with one tailed beast? And it wasn't even the whole thing. However, Naruto is tied to this tree, and Momoshiki is sucking out Kurama's chakra. However, Kurama has so much chakra that he can't do it at a speed that's even remotely efficient. Momoshiki tells Naruto that he's taking this tailed beast chakra
$19.
into chakra pills. They're kind of like PEDs for the Otsutsuki. Essentially, they
I'm
can compress
tripping.
chakra down into small little pills, take it, and increase their chakra and overall power. This is also their secret to
I'm gonna run it again.
Over Naruto
One more time.
This idea of the chakra
Last time.
pills, the Shinobi
Very
Gauntlet,
last time.
in that it's a workaround hard work. And as Momoshiki and Naruto are having this conversation while
PGI.
Momoshiki is ripping Kurama out of him, the
EX.
4 Kage, Sasuke, and Boruto pull up. I forgot to mention, the 4 current Kage also went with Sasuke and Boruto. That would be Gaara, Chojuro, Darui, and, Anoki's granddaughter.
Hold on.
Oh, God,
Let me do
what is her name? Kuratsuchi.
Let me do
the
something.
Kuratsuchi Kage. So the 4 Hokage free Naruto from his constraints and go to fight against Kinshiki and Momoshiki. And they all hold their own with them, which is insane for scaling purposes. While a lot of people sit back and are like, oh, this is the weakest generation of Hokage, the fact that all of these Hokage were able to go toe-to-toe with Otsutsuki's insane. Momoshiki even goes so far as to say that Gaara's taijutsu is equal to Naruto's, which makes sense because Gaara during the blank period has been training his taijutsu with the 7 heavenly breaths guy. Like, Chojuro and Kuratsuchi literally managed to pin down Kinshiki. At which point Momoshiki is like, well, this guy is useless because Momoshiki is the higher ranking Otsutsuki in their duo, and therefore converts Kinshiki into edible chakra pills and takes it, which turns Momoshiki into fused Momoshiki, which is a lot of fun things for him, but the most fun of which is give him a golden Rinnegan in the center of his forehead. It's at this point that fused Momoshiki knocks out the 4 other Kage. They were useful for a while, but not the whole time. And it's at this point that Naruto and Sasuke go toe-to-toe with fused Momoshiki in what is arguably probably Naruto's best fight. Not to mention that Naruto in this fight throws hands with fused Momoshiki in base, which is insane. And Naruto and Sasuke, for all intents and purposes, defeat this fused Momoshiki. However, when it looks like Momoshiki is down and out, Katsuki pulls up because apparently he snuck in the portal and uses the Shinobi Gauntlet in what he believes will be the finishing blow against Momoshiki. However, Momoshiki just absorbs all of the ninjutsu that he threw at him with the Shinobi Gauntlet, and now he's fine again. It's at this point that Momoshiki uses all of his absorbed ninjutsu to hold down Naruto and Sasuke. And Boruto, hoping to help, throws his
Tell me what y'all want to
Rasengan
see.
at Momoshiki. But
What
when
do y'all want to
Momoshiki
see?
sees the Rasengan disappear, he decides he doesn't need to focus on Boruto anymore. However, Rasengan didn't disappear, it's just invisible. And so when Momoshiki shifts his attention back to Naruto and Sasuke, he gets
The
hit with
Gengar
Rasengan,
or the
which
Mew?
breaks his hold on Naruto and Sasuke because he was using Shikamaru's absorbed shadow technique. And it's at this point that Naruto says that Boruto needs to create another Rasengan, but Naruto gives Boruto a ton of his chakra, and they make a massive
The Gengar I might keep,
Rasengan.
but the
There's
Mew,
a bunch of switching using heavenly hand power with Sasuke and his extreme Rinnegan, and eventually Boruto hits Momoshiki.
I'm gonna
with a
post the
massive
Mew on my
Rasengan.
shop,
That kills him. Momoshiki is into God.
and if you want to get it, you can get it. But I'm gonna post it on my shop. It's a clean card, honestly. Ain't nothing wrong with it.
Is a lot like a curse
No dents. No.
The Otsutsuki are in a cycle of turning planets into chakra fruits. However, in order to turn a planet into a
But I'm
chakra
gonna post it on my shop. I don't know about if I do it on here, cause
in order to make sure that they're not
it's not going cheap. It's probably gonna go for like
the Otsutsuki created
18,
something known as the
like
Kage
18.
that allows these lower-ranking
Honestly.
Otsutsuki that are being fed to attend
My
tales
bad,
to
like
mark
18.
somebody to upload their consciousness, chakra, battle information, everything onto that body.
If I do it on here,
over when they die. So
I'm dropping it.
is technically killed by Boruto in this moment. Since he's now been marked with the Gaara marking, Boruto is slowly but surely uploading all of Momoshiki's
Then my
information
Gengar.
into his body so that one day Momoshiki can take it back over. After Momoshiki is defeated, Boruto goes on an apology tour like a Minecraft YouTuber whose DMs got leaked. Gaara and Shinki talk about what it is to be a shinobi with a ton of strength, and the entire Uzumaki family comes together to celebrate Himawari's past birthday. And it's at this point
They
that
trying to get my
Boruto and Naruto
Gengar.
fist bump and finally become the father-son duo they've always meant to be. With an understanding from both of them that they're both on an incredibly important journey in their own right, and that they should let each other enjoy those journeys but find moments to spend together. The next manga canon arc is definitely a significantly less important manga canon arc because it's the Mujina Bandits arc. This arc opens with a new Team 7
Trying to
being
get
given the
me
mission
them
of
guys.
protecting a wealthy businessman. This wealthy businessman is Tento. However, Tento is being targeted by the Mujina Bandits, a group of bandits who are after his fortune. At some point in time, while they're escorting Tento, the Mujina Bandits manage to kidnap him and demand a ransom. It's at this point that Team 7 has to come together and get him back. And they track the Mujina Bandits to an underground lair. And when they find this secret lair, it's revealed that the Mujina Bandits are actually a part of a much bigger underground association, and that their leader, Shijoji, has a grudge against Naruto. Team 7 battles against Shijoji and his elite bandits, and after they defeat them, it's revealed that the Mujina Bandits are actually just a small subsection of the Fabrications. And the Fabrications are a large criminal organization that operate in the shadows of the Boruto world that are trying to destabilize the ninja world. They're involved in human trafficking, drug smuggling, basically everything illegal you can think of. But in the end, basically their only goal is to destabilize the ninja world and take it over. However, we haven't heard or seen anything from the Fabrications since this, so who knows. The next manga canon arc is the Ao arc. This arc opens with the inners of Kara coming together for a meeting. Now, Kara is essentially Boruto's version of the Akatsuki, and the inners are basically Akatsuki members. It's just they're the more prevalent Akatsuki members. They also have outers who help Kara, but they're not considered like the inside folk. So the inners are basically our members of the Akatsuki, everybody you need to worry about, while the outers are like collaborators. All of the inners of Kara have been summoned by their leader, Jigen, who reveals to them that the vessel has been lost. Now, one of the inners, or the members of Kara, claims that he should
This
be
is
the
what we
one
doing.
to recover the vessel. However, Koji, as in Kashin
This is what we
Koji, who's
doing.
actually a genetic clone of Jiraiya created by a scientist by the name of Amado, who's also an inner in Kara, claims that he can take care of it, and all of the inners in Kara agree. After the meeting
No
ended,
scratches.
Victor is furious that other members of Kara mocked him and didn't believe he could take charge in this event. However, it's this point that Koji reveals himself to Victor, and as Victor is startled by this, he goes to attack Koji, as Koji is the subject of his ire at the current moment. And it's at this moment that Victor is struck with a kunai instead of blaze, a blaze that is so ferocious that it overcomes his naturally incredibly high regeneration factor. So one of the members of
Right
Kara
now,
already
I
gone.
got a
Cut to
little bit of
Konohama,
singles.
Boruto and Naruto are having a sparring match.
Not a whole
During this
lot. I really got
sparring, Naruto
graded,
reveals
honestly.
that his prosthetic
I got
hand
graded.
that he used to replace the one he blew off in his battle against Sasuke has the ability to absorb ninjutsu, an idea that Naruto got from Momoshiki's Rinnegan pawns. The fact that Naruto's
If you want
prosthetic
me to
hand
play the
was
graded,
a
I
tool
can play the graded.
infuriates Boruto because he just got
Up
yelled
to
at
you.
about
What you
using
want to
it. But Naruto tells Boruto it's not about the tool, it's about how you use it. Leaning on the tools as a crutch is a way to avoid hard work.
But I'm about
So this
to
is why Naruto
go ahead and
assigns
play
Team
that.
7 to transport Katsuki and a new prosthetic limb to a lab on the border of the Land of Fire. And on that very same border of the Land of Fire, Konohamaru is currently on a scouting mission. Konohamaru has stumbled upon a crashed blimp, which appears to have a person inside of it. And it's then revealed that this blimp actually belongs to Kara and was crashed because there's a traitor within the midst of Kara. We then cut back to Team 7 and Katsuki as they're on their way to the lab to bring the prosthetic limb. However, it's at this point that a character that we're all familiar with shows up. Ao. You know, the guy with the Byakugan from the Hidden Mist Village who was able to break Yagura out of the Genjutsu Obito placed on him, that Ao. It's revealed that Ao is actually one of the patients of Katsuki, and that Ao is actually only alive because of advancements in shinobi technology. As Ao was one of the people in the information center that was controlling the Fourth Great Shinobi World War that was bombed by the Ten Tails. However, as the train reaches its destination, we see Ao get off and start to talk to Koji, a member of Kara. And Koji begins to compliment Ao on his ability to place Katsuki under Genjutsu that makes Katsuki tell Ao all the information he knows about shinobi technology. And it's at this point that Koji tells Ao to go to the blimp and kill anybody who's interacted with it. Once they make it to the lab where the prosthetic was heading, they do a couple of tests with some of the shinobi tools that are kicking around, and Boruto begins to warm up the idea of science and technology helping society move forward, which is currently very cold on because of the situation that the shinobi gauntlet put him in the first place. However, one of the last tools they're testing is a chakra-wielding blade. It's a lightsaber. I shit you not. It is a lightsaber powered by chakra. However, this lightsaber is very inefficient and uses a lot of chakra, and therefore Katsuki kind of just gives it to Boruto. However, it's at this point that Naruto calls Team 7 and says that he can't get into contact with Konohamaru, who's checking out the airship wreck, and therefore sends Team 7 because they were close. So Katsuki, shit you not, hops in an Iron Man suit. They all head out to the airship crash. However, when they get to the airship, it's being patrolled by puppets who essentially have chakra cannons attached to their arms, which they quickly defeat using Katsuki's Iron Man suit. And as they fall back from the assault of the robots, they stumble upon a cave where Konohamaru and his teammate Lujino are. However, while they were at the airship, Katsuki was able to download the information of the airship and bring it with him. However, Al finds them, and since he was supposed to kill anybody who's come into contact with the airship, he pulls out, I wish I was kidding, a minigun. It is a rotating gun that uses the small scrolls that are in the Shinobi Gauntlet to shoot fire ninjutsu. It's a minigun. Then battle against Al for a couple of chapters, since he's got miniguns and drones and a bunch of other Shinobiware that make him almost impossible to kill. And after Boruto defeats Al, he comes to grips with the fact that scientific technology can be helpful and can save lives, and also can power those who are unpowered to fight for themselves. But at the end of the day, nothing beats hard work. Al tries to goad Boruto into killing him after Boruto hits him with a Rasengan that shoots him into a building. But Boruto uses a line of logic that Al had given to him previously, where Al had grabbed a screwdriver and almost jammed it into Boruto's eye. It's at that point that he asks if the screwdriver, a tool that could take his eye, was actually evil or useful. See, the overarching theme of the Al versus Boruto fight is that Al would become un-shinobi-like, using things like drones and miniguns, things with no genuine skill. However, Al believed that since Kara saved his life through the power of technology, that he owed his life to them. And it wasn't until Boruto decided to save Al that Kashin Koji shows up. See, Koji had been watching the battle, but Koji didn't want Al leaking the information of the airship out there. So Koji pulls up and summons a
I got
toad
some.
that's
I
about
got
to
some.
crush Boruto. However, Al, in his last moment as a shinobi, uses water ninjutsu to push Boruto out of the way, bringing him back to his original roots of being a hidden shinobi. But then he, the super gets crushed to death. It's at this point that Koji and Team 7 begin their combat, with Koji placing all of them under a seal that stops them from moving, but Konohamaru is able to break out of it. It's at this point that Konohamaru and Kashin Koji clash their Rasengans together. However, as Konohamaru reels back from the explosion, it's revealed that he has a toad on him that detonates and begins to incinerate him with the same flames that had killed Victor. For a second there, it kind of looked like raps for Konohamaru. However, it's at this moment that the karma seal that Momoshiki gave to Boruto activates for the first time and absorbs the flames that were on Konohamaru, which leads Koji to realize that Boruto was the one who had been chosen by Momoshiki. Koji, upon realizing this, thanks them for showing him something interesting and retreats. Koji's kind of a question mark character that we're not super sure about what his motivations are currently. We get a deeper dive into him in a couple of chapters here, but his current motivations for being oh, you're the person Momoshiki chose, I guess I'll leave you alone, we don't currently understand. It'll probably become clear, very soon, as most people believe that Kashin Koji is going to be at least peripherally involved in Boruto's training during the time skip. But like I said, kind of a question mark. After Koji has disappeared, everybody draws their attention to a passed-out boy. See, everybody believed that this passed-out boy was one of the puppets they defeated. However, when they looked at this boy, they realized that he had the same mark as Boruto. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, it's ballpark season.
Unbeatable performance! That's why I love Coppertone Sport. It helps protect me from UV rays.
My name is Tiff and I'm an 8th grader. I didn't always like to read. I would add words and it felt like I wasn't at the same level as my peers. It wasn't enjoyable until I found Reading Coach! It's fun to pick my own levels and choose my own characters, even unicorns, especially unicorns. It makes me feel really proud like I am the author of my story. Sparkles was a young and adventurous unicorn who lived in a magical forest.
Clutter builds up quick when you're trying new things. But Extra Space Storage can save you space at home so you have room to do more. Rent secure and clean storage at one of our locations near you. Visit extraspace.com today.
Kawaki has been introduced, which is why the next arc we're going to be talking about is the Kawaki arc. Kawaki arc opens with Team 7 observing this unconscious Kawaki. However, as Boruto begins to approach Kawaki, his karma seal begins to hurt. And his karma seal hurts because it's resonating with Kawaki's, which also hurts Kawaki and wakes him up. Kawaki and the Konoha ninja begin to talk about why he's there and what's going on when Garo, another inner from Kara, appears. Garo had been sent in to keep an eye on Koji because everyone believed he wasn't progressing his mission of closing up the airship catastrophe fast enough. And it's at this point that Kawaki begins the fight against Garo, who initially overpowers him until Kawaki activates his karma marking. In this activated karma marking state, Kawaki is massively stronger than Garo and kills him. And he kills him by unleashing a blast wave that easily incinerated Garo and should have easily incinerated Team 7. However, Boruto at the last moment accidentally activates his karma marking and absorbs it, saving Team 7. And while Kawaki doesn't want to go with Team 7, he passes out from the exertion of the fight. And at this point, the Katsuki observes his body and realizes that it's basically a walking shinobi tool, as he's been modified on a microscopic level to be more powerful. And the modifications to his body are greater than even the modifications the Katsuki did to Naruto's prosthetic arm. They decide to take Kawaki back to Konoha because obviously Kara, who's a shady organization, are very interested in him. However, since Kawaki was a child and was very clearly heavily abused by Kara, they tried to integrate him into regular society in Konoha, and therefore they had him move into Naruto's house. However, Kawaki, who has been abused by basically every adult in his life ever, tries to escape from the situation, as he believes that Konoha only brought him in so they could interrogate him for information on Kara. Now, Kawaki keeps trying to run away from Konoha until Naruto reveals how powerful he is to Kawaki and realizes he's not to be messed with. But also Naruto is showing Kawaki how powerful he is to show Kawaki he can protect him. Himawari is also trying to integrate Kawaki into their life by presenting him a vase that she made for him. However, Kawaki breaks the vase, which makes Boruto very angry and Himawari very upset. And even though Kawaki half-heartedly apologizes to Himawari, it's not enough. After a little while, Kawaki reveals his backstory to Boruto, where he tells Boruto that he was the son of an alcoholic who forced Kawaki to work all day to get money to pay for his alcohol. And when Kawaki accidentally dropped his alcohol one day, Kawaki was sold to Jigen, who's collecting children from all over the world.
I got graded cards right here.
Because karma markings do not work every single time. In fact, finding somebody suitable for a karma marking is very difficult, and everybody who's not suitable
have graded.
dies. However, since Kawaki was
Gengar. You said Gengar. My bad. Gengar.
For years, causes Boruto to gain a fair amount of sympathy for
I don't
Kawaki.
know.
But regardless of the sympathy he holds for Kawaki, he demands that he fix the vase that he broke. Kawaki instead then decides that he'll just buy Himawari a new vase, and therefore him and Naruto head out to Ino's flower shop.
I'm trying to get Gengar graded. I ain't gonna lie. I might keep that one. If somebody give me a good price on it, then yeah, just send me like a message, and we can make a deal. Just send me a message, and we can make a deal.
And reassures him that everything will be okay. And this is actually a callback to the time when Naruto himself had a panic attack and he had no one there to help him. But even though Kawaki bought a new vase, Boruto still demanded that he fix the one that he broke. Meanwhile, all of this is going on, Koji has appeared to sneak into Konoha, which he's able to do because he has the exact same chakra signature as Jiraiya, which was registered with the Sensory Bureau. However, Delta, another inner of Kara, decided that Koji wasn't moving fast enough, and therefore Delta also flew into Konoha to go kidnap Kawaki. However, since Delta's chakra signature wasn't registered with the Sensory Bureau, they immediately knew she had entered Konoha, at which point Delta and Naruto enter in a battle against each other. Now, Naruto wants to take her in for questioning, and therefore he suppresses his power substantially. And he's basically beaten Delta to a pulp at this point until she reveals her trump card, a laser beam that nullifies all regeneration techniques. And Delta,
right after this one, I got you.
Substantially stronger than her, decided to target this attack at Himawari, who was hanging out
with her
family for the day. Naruto then throws his body in front of Himawari to make sure that she wouldn't get struck by this laser beam, but before Naruto can get struck by this laser beam, Kawaki throws his body in front of it. And considering the fact that this attack is a light speed attack and Kawaki reacts to it and travels in front of it before it can land, he's fast. Now this causes Kawaki to lose one of his arms, and it will never grow back. And this makes Naruto really angry. So angry he throws the whole let's not kill her thing out the window. However, unfortunately he doesn't kill Delta because Delta's kind of a hive mind. Delta is a consciousness upload that you can put in any single drone. We'll talk more about her later. But Delta drives a drone version part of herself back to the Kara hideout and re-uploads in a new body and tells everybody about how Boruto has a karma marking, which surprises everybody. And while all this is going on, Koji is still collecting information from within Konoha about Naruto and Kawaki and Boruto. And he goes on to say that while Naruto's power is terrifying, it will be enough to overcome Jigen. Only the Kama can do that. And in the aftermath of this battle, Kawaki is given a prosthetic arm, very similar to Naruto's. And this prosthetic arm is actually powered through Naruto's chakra, meaning that Naruto has to give Kawaki a portion of his chakra to power this arm. Because of this act of kindness, Kawaki begins to open up to people in Konoha, even asks to learn ninjutsu. And at a certain point, he has a conversation with Kurama, where Kurama reveals just how similar Naruto's childhood was to Kawaki's, which makes Kawaki even more grateful to Naruto. That's gonna be a theme they should keep an eye on. However, while this emotional building is going on, Sasuke is traveling through the dimensions, like Sasuke does. And it's at this point that he stumbles upon the Kara hideout. And it's at this point that he comes to two shocking realizations. One, Kaguya had not come to Earth alone. Kaguya was actually the lower-ranking Otsutsuki who had come to the planet in Otsutsuki duo with the higher-ranking Otsutsuki, Ishiki, aka Jigen. The second terrifying realization is that there was a second Ten Tails, and this second relatively immature Ten Tails is being kept at the Kara hideout. What's even more terrifying is that Jigen began to siphon out energy out of this Ten Tails so he could go get Kawaki himself. And since Ishiki, aka Jigen, had a karma marking on Kawaki, he was able to forcibly synchronize their karma markings and open a portal to Kawaki, which allowed Jigen to simply just walk right into Konoha. And it's at this point that Jigen appears in front of Koji and tells him to stop observing Naruto, Kawaki, and Boruto, as Jigen is well aware that Koji has always been a spy within Kara, the spy who made sure the air vessel crashed, and that Jigen didn't interfere with him because he was curious about his motives. You know, that informs Naruto about Jigen's presence, and Naruto and Jigen begin to have a one-on-one. However, it wasn't much of a one-on-one because Jigen basically just went on to kick Naruto's ass. Jigen then goes over to Kawaki and begins the preparation of bringing him back